Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. Do have a number of other folks who responded they would be joining this call, so I want to give them just another minute before we go ahead and get started. So again, we're going to wait until about 2:31, 2:32 before we get started with the training today. Alrighty, everyone. Looks like we have most of the folks, or a good number of folks, joined for today's call. Again, we're going to start the first half hour with a demo of the bulk import feature in AWP Estimation. I will preface, there is a little bit of background knowledge of how AWP Estimation works required to utilize this feature. But once again, this will be recorded. It'll be shared with everyone as well that's on the call today. So you all should have access to it in the future. That being said, the second half is going to be an open Q&A session for folks to answer or ask any questions they may have regarding anything AWP estimation related. Does not have to pertain directly to the bulk import feature that we'll demo today. Do ask to There's a number of folks on the call today, so if you wouldn't mind, please staying muted and then just raise your hand if you have a question. I'll do my best to call on folks. Again, my name is Justin. I am the AWP Estimation Implementation Lead with the e-construction team here in central office at VDOT. Harold is instrumental in how AWP estimation happens as well. Harold, I see you're on the call. Would you mind introducing yourself as well?
Sure, not a problem, Justin. Good afternoon, everyone. Harold Caples. I'm in the cost estimation office, and as Justin said, I'm happy and excited to be involved with estimation and excited for things to come. Yeah, here if you have any questions, and looking forward to hearing what questions the group has. Thank you, Justin.
Of course, thank you. And then I also see Tessa is on the call, our infotech guru. Would you mind introducing yourself to the group?
Hi, everyone. My name is Tessa Hughes. As Justin mentioned, I work at Infotech, and I'm here to help answer any questions you may have about Astra Project.
Awesome, thank you. Once again, thank you all for joining the call today. With that being said, we're going to go through the AWP estimation bulk import feature that we rolled out recently. So at a high level, it allows you to upload a CSV directly into AWP estimation and load in as many items as you may need into a single cost estimate. With that, I'm going to go ahead and go split screen here. So what I want to do is work through this job aid that we have here. And again, if you don't have this handy or you don't have direct access to it, it can be found in our econ folder as we get there. So there we go. If you are external to VDOT and you don't have access to this direct folder that I'm navigating to, that's fine as well. There we go. I will make sure to send everything to everyone so that everyone has access to all of these files. But in the econ portal, AWP estimation, and then we have all of these items in the bulk import cost estimate items folder here. Again, I know there was a lot of clicks in there to navigate to that folder, but for the folks internal to VDOT, I'm going to send a chat with that link available for everyone. All right. Back to the job aid. So again, impacted process is creating a cost estimate. We're importing multiple cost estimate items at once to a single cost estimate. It does require the VEst engineer or designer role. So if you do not have that role, please reach out. There's a separate process to make sure that you get that role and estimation as well. Now there are some preconditions here. And first I want to go over ensure you've already created a concept. So very important, again, with the rollout of estimation, there's the modified workflow. I'm going to navigate to my concept for today. If you have questions on concepts, happy to answer those in the second half of today's call. But for this portion, we're going to work under the assumption folks know how to create a new concept and an associated cost estimate as well. So with those two being created, we've already checked off the first two preconditions here. And the third one is one or more categories on the cost estimate. So once again, item categories in here, you want to make sure that you have any categories already added in. So click new, add in the fields that you would need to add your categories required. But any item that requires a category that category would have to be uploaded before you do the import feature here. All right. So those are three preconditions: add a concept, add a cost estimate, and one or more categories on the cost estimate. With that, there are some very important notes here that I wanted to go over. And so working down the list here, if you're importing items for the first time, it is recommended that you try to import a single item at first as a test. So give you a chance to make sure you're doing things correctly before importing all your items. This process, it's very detailed, and the import file, the CSV, can be a little finicky. So we want to make sure that you're comfortable with the process before spending the time to copy in 60 items and then realizing it's not working for you. So again, start off with just one item, start small, work your way up from there. For the best results, it is recommended that you only use the import to add new items. If you try to use the import to update items and you don't accurately use the correct line numbers in your import file, you may end up with duplicate items on your cost estimate, or you may overwrite/lose data. So be very careful. I will go over that pitfall there towards the end of the demonstration today. But again, we strongly urge people using this bulk import feature only to add new items and generally to add items to a cost estimate that doesn't have any predetermined items or pre-populated items on that cost estimate. So clean slate. When I go into my cost estimate items, I don't have anything there, so I'm ready to go. The final note, very important, it is up to you to ensure that you are importing data correctly. By using this import, you're assuming the risk of potentially overwriting any item data that already exists on your cost estimate. I can't understate that enough. This is a very important note to this process. You could change items on the cost estimate if you're not careful. So again, please be judicious in how you approach it and follow these items here in order. Start small, make sure that you're very careful with the details on it and understand that you can actually overwrite the data that's on your cost estimate that's currently in there. So with that, hopefully I didn't scare you off from this fantastic feature too much. It really is a benefit to the users, but we do have to get some of those disclaimers out there beforehand. So step one is to open the import cost estimate item template. So once again, for those that have the chat feature enabled in Teams, you can see the template in here. If you don't, once again, I will make sure to send all of these files that I reference in a follow-up email to everyone on the call today for you to utilize at your own leisure. So with that, I'm going to open up the template. You might get something that looks like this. Please click Don't Convert. We want leading zeros on there. They are critical to how we import. I will go over that in just a minute. And so starting from the top, we open up the CSV file. For the import to work, the first 2 rows must not be changed as the data loader requires a specific CSV format to work. Do not delete, rename, or rearrange columns. The system, AWP system, it's looking at these as these headers as their fields. So if you change any of that, it won't be able to read it correctly. So again, it's these first 2 rows that we don't want to touch at all. I know, do see Tracy on the call. Tracy, you had a fantastic idea previously to hide some of these rows or to minimize the column widths on these as well. And others have recommended that, so I just wanted to address that first. The long and short is you can hide the rows or the columns that you're not going to use. That's fine. That being said, every time you open this file, it will reset. And that's because it's a CSV file. It doesn't save any formatting. For today's call, I'm going to hide some of these columns just so that we can see on my condensed window everything in one view. But just know that even if you hide these columns, the moment you open up this file, once again, it's going to go back to the default view. That's because CSVs store raw data only. So, but that being said, do not delete, rename, rearrange any of the columns, but you can hide if you need to. So really quick, I'm going to go skip ahead for a second and hide a bunch of these columns that we will not be referencing today. And AB, so that's AC, all the way over to AO. And then from AS to J. There we go, much better. All right, so back from the top. Next item, save your CSV file with a new name, save as. All right. I hope everyone's comfortable saving as, understands how to do that. Highlight the entire CSV and change the format to text. Note that changing the format to text ensures that you will not lose any leading zeros when you're pasting in values, i.e. 0001 versus 1. As I mentioned, this file can be a little finicky, so if you do not have leading zeros, especially this is applicable to your item categories here, and if you have it listed as 0, 100 in AWP and you have this in your file as 100, it will not load properly. So leading zeros are very important in this. So I want to format, change everything to text, just like so. All right. I'm not seeing any hands up so far. Looks like we're doing all right. Awesome. Various ways to change format, but I usually just click top left, right click, format cells. but this guide will walk you through another way. Next is going to be your data that you're entering for all of your items, right? So column A, CSV header, enter the name of the table on every row. And so for this purpose, our row or our name here is going to be cost estimate item. Anytime you're using the bulk import feature for this purpose, just standard, start a new row, click and drag, however you need to. But column A is always going to be cost estimate item for our purposes. Supplemental descriptions go in column K here. Widen so that we can see. So for my one item here, I had gutter, and then the other two items that I have listed here, I did not have any supplemental information. I'm going to clear that out for now. But cost estimate line number, this is in reference to, don't have one open here, but on your cost estimate, when I upload, I'll show you what those line numbers look like. I strongly prefer, again, if we're starting from scratch, to not list any line numbers. That will lock it in to a specific row in that cost estimate. So if we're starting from scratch, I prefer to leave that blank. But we'll go into those a little bit more in just a minute. Next is the unit price. Enter your price for your items without commas. So for my unit price, we have 9,000, 6 and 1, no commas. And then, Ryan, I see your hand up.
Yeah, you might have already said this, but when you're doing if you are doing the line items, you maybe already enter them and you're just trying to update the unit prices. I think I ran into an issue where I tried having the leading zeros and it didn't find the existing line item, but when I got rid of the leading zeros, it did find the existing line item. Is that how that's supposed to work with the line item? No leading zeros?
So we navigate. I don't want to do this.
And also, there's always a chance I just did it wrong, so that could be it too.
Yeah, so I'll note that when I get to that point, when I have items in here loaded in, and we can test that out. I believe it should have the leading zeros in there. Let me see quick how I have this listed elsewhere. Nope, you're right. I actually do have for line items no leading zeros on mine when I entered it, but I will make a note to see what happens when we test it out. We'll do one with a leading zero, one without, and make sure to get to the bottom of that when we approach that. So
Thank you.
Great question, Ryan. Thank you. Perfect. All right. Again, thank you for the question. So we did unit price and then extended amount. I've heard of folks using Excel formulas, basic arithmetic here to do the extended amount, unit price times quantity. That's fine. You're happy to do that. Again, because this is a CSV file, if you have that as like a preset on your template, when you open this back up, more than likely it will delete. But also because we have set the entire file as text, so we formatted all the cells as text, those formulas won't work properly unless you modify those individual cells. So best practice for me, it might be a little more work on the front end, but just take out a calculator, use your built-in one on the computer to calculate the extended amount here. Again, if I do type in formulas here, I would have to modify the cell. So best practice for me in using this has been to just use calculator on the computer as opposed to.
I think if you just leave extended amount blank, the system calculates that anyway. So it'll calculate it for you. If you
Nice.
leave it blank.
Let's I like that. So let's go ahead and we'll test that one out and leave that blank. So we have item 3 as 23,000, and then the other ones should populate. Thanks, Tessa.
You're welcome.
Again, in this file, you see without commas listed here. So again, we just want to make sure all of our numbers do not have any commas listed in there. And then the cost estimate name. If you are a user of AWP Estimation, you've probably seen a number of emails from myself detailing the new naming process or naming convention for cost estimates. If we want to get into that, we can do that in the second half of today's call. But for this purpose, we have the cost estimate name as it's listed in estimation. We have our spec book in column Q, item ID, which is our items that we're referencing today. I have preloaded 3 of them. And then our categories right here. So we go spec book, standard right there, 20 categories, 0, 100. Once again, I have these categories preloaded into my cost estimate right there. And a little bit repetitive in some of these next columns, but we have cost estimate name, once again, copy paste, spec book, same thing, and then non-bid. Enter N for regular bid items, enter yes for non-bid items. So all of mine are regular bid items, so I entered in N for those. All right. Now, this next step is so that the items sort in order based on spec book. So right click on cell AA2, which is the item ID. And basically, we just want to sort it based on those. So if you go here, right click on cell AA2, sort A to Z. They're already sorted, so we're doing just fine. But again, if you're entering in 60 of these and you load it into AWP without sorting, be tough to reference where each item is if they're not in order. So just a good trick to make sure that you sort that before you move on. So then we save our CSV and then we open AstroWare project. So as we mentioned before, we did our 3 prerequisites, concept, cost estimate, categories. I'm going to do the global actions menu in the top right and select import file. So global actions, for those, just so you see what it usually looks like, import file, just like that. And then we are going to select our file. So I want to take a moment to talk through these options. I've mentioned a couple times that we strongly urge folks to only add items into this, not update records. It can get tricky if you start to try to use this import feature to update records. We strongly recommend doing that within the cost estimate itself. And it's also best practice to only use this feature when uploading all new items into a cost estimate. So if you already have items in there, it can duplicate records easily, it can overwrite records, it just gets really messy, and I will show what some of those look like. So you have these two top options here, and you notice the difference, add or update existing records and ignore blank fields, or blank fields overwrite. One feature I wanted to make sure everyone's aware of is you'll see these question marks on different, call them components, think of them as pages. If you click that question mark, it'll take you to a quick help on some of those features. So it's a very useful tool that Infotech's built into AWP. So you see the first option, to ignore blanks, select update existing cost estimate items and ignore blanks. To overwrite existing data, select update existing cost estimate items and blanks overwrite. We, again, don't recommend overwriting existing data, so we tend to leave it on add or update existing records and ignore blank fields. Jessica, I see your hand up.
Hey, Justin, we were trying to use this feature recently, and when we click on the action button for data loader import, we were getting payroll import. And so nothing was working.
Nothing was working.
Sounds like you picked the wrong thing. Like he picked import file was the action he picked.
Yeah, that's what we did. We followed the job aid.
And he saw payroll import?
Yep.
And that was after you selected your file? Maybe, so when you're the file you select, it has to be CSV. So if you tried to like import like an Excel, it might think it was a payroll file.
We were using the same template that was provided. We didn't have an Excel file, and I don't know why it defaulted to payroll import.
So
maybe you could send Justin your file that you tried to import, and he could see if there's anything different about it or unexpected.
Okay.
yeah, thank you for the question, Jessica. I haven't seen that come up in my testing or using this feature. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind sending me your file, we can take a look at it and maybe even a screenshot of what it said for when it payroll import. That's interesting.
So it happens if the file you're trying to import is like the extension, it's XLSX, so Excel, it thinks it's a payroll. But if it's a CSV, it thinks it's data loader.
Maybe that's something you can put in the job aid.
I think you're on mute still, Justin.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you sparing me from looking funny for the rest of the training. So I was just saying, we click import and then open process history right here. It's going to give you 3 different files as options. My preference here is to check the second one, which is the data load summary log. I find that one to be the most helpful before actually going into the cost estimate. Once that loads, I will share with you why. So that log gives you a summary of what the process did. So you can see the record type was cost estimate items, and it tells you 3 items were processed, which should check out, and 3 items were created, which means 3 items were successfully loaded to that cost estimate. If it did not, it would show items rejected, which you can see on a previous log. 2 were created, 2 were rejected, and it just gives you like a sneak peek into was it successful, and if it wasn't successful, it shares how many were not. So a very helpful log there, but that's the one I primarily use when navigating here. So from here, review the error logs to check whether your import was successful. And for those who were not aware, the drop-down on the previous button on the top left of your screen allows you to navigate to the last few pages you've been navigating to. So I'm going to go back to my cost estimate and see that my items were loaded right there. So as Tessa mentioned, I left out the extended amount on 2 of those items. Let's see. For the first 2 items, and it calculated it for you and loaded it in automatically, which is great. Forget everything I said about using a calculator on the side. But you can see 3 items here. To, I think it was Ryan's question earlier. Yeah, so right here, if you see the line numbers, basically you just want to match whatever's in AWP. So that's why there's no leading zeros on that one. It says 10, so you want it to be 10. Whereas on my categories, I have them listed as 0, 100, so I would want those to be 0, 100 when uploading in. Hopefully that answered your question from earlier. I wanted to pause for a second before I go through a few of the pitfalls, and see if anyone had any quick questions on this. Comments? No? Okay. So one of the biggest reasons that we strongly advocate for only adding items into here is because if I were to repeat this process, the exact same thing, select the exact file, and I click import, what you'll see is it just duplicated all of my items in here, and it's going to take a second. Wait for that to load. But it basically just added 3 more of the same items to that cost estimate, which is generally not what folks are looking for. Go. And so now you see just a repeat of those exact items. And the reason being is because I didn't list the lines out. Now, there's ways to make sure that this pitfall does not happen. But again, you have to be really detailed and make sure that all the line numbers match up if you're going to load into an existing cost estimate with items. So, for example, if I were looking at this one, I'm going to go ahead and delete the 3 duplicates. Save that here. And I am going to load a new one. So let's say I had those 3 items that I had before. As you can see, I'm going to list my line item or my line number here. as 10 and 20 for the first two, which are exactly as they're listed in our cost estimate. I'm not going to list a line number for the third one. And then our fourth one is a brand new item that we did not have before. And the hope is just to show you, sure. I thought that might happen. Make it as text. Save that. And again, my hope is just to show you one of the common mistakes that I've seen when using this feature. If you don't pay close attention to each item and the lines associated with them, what can happen? Because really, in uploading this estimate, logic would say we're trying to just add one item here. But say you forget to add that one item number, what I'm going to do, we're going to import our file. Select. This was our second one. And again, for this process, open the process history once again. Wait for our process to run successfully. There we go. And again, I like to always look at the data load summary to see what exactly happened. And in looking at this, if I knew I was trying to add one item, I would know this would set off a red flag because it said it created two items and updated two items. So I should have only created one item when I was trying to add it and updated three. And so this, again, it just gives you a sneak peek into what to expect on that cost estimate. So I go back into my cost estimate summary, look at my items to see what exactly happened. And I see that now I have 5 items. And again, you can see exactly why, right? Because I didn't list that line number here as 30, it just duplicated 401 SD20. So it duplicated it twice. It treated it as a new item. But we did get our other item here. So again, recommend only using this to upload, use the bulk import to upload a full batch of items. But if you are going to update cost estimates with items pre-existing on that cost estimate, pay very close attention to those line numbers. That being said, if you mess up, it's pretty simple. Use the drop down, delete that duplicate, and save from there. All right. With that, are there any questions on anything I just covered with the bulk import? Comments? For those who've used this, have you found it to be helpful? I'd say, with the exception of maybe Jessica uploading, finding the wrong report. Brian, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I thought it was really helpful. I had a project with almost 200 items in it, and had to update the unit prices. And after I accidentally duplicated all of them and deleted them, and then fixed the line number thing to get them all updated, it was still a lot faster than having to update all of them one by one.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great. I was curious if there's a way where in the future, it looks like there's a bunch of extra columns in the import CSV file. Is that just because like the importer's expecting a table with certain fields, or is there a way where in the future maybe we could remove some of those extra fields that we don't need, or we could like put all the required ones all the way on the left?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Glad to hear that this is proving useful to you. I wanted to first reiterate that this was a feature that we were unsure about releasing given its complexity, but based on feedback from some of those initial trainings that we offered, we decided to roll this out. So again, glad to hear it's being used and appreciated. And this came from feedback like from folks like yourself. So any feedback that we receive, we definitely take seriously and try to meet the requests to the best of our ability. To answer your question, the columns do have to stay where they are. It does have to do with how the system receives the table. Tessa might be able to elaborate a little bit more on why exactly those have to be there. But like I said, I'm not sure if you were there when I first started. You can hide these columns when you're loading, especially if you're going to be doing 200 items again. You can hide the columns to make it a little easier to read, but you cannot delete, rearrange any of those. But like I said, initially, it's a CSV file. It stores raw data, not formatting. So the moment you open up this file once again, I can show you. It'll open up just like it was initially. Don't convert. And you can see all those columns are back, right? And the widths are back to what they were. So it's just, that's part and reason because of AWP system, part and reason because of the nature of CSV files and how they store information. Hopefully that answered your question. Are there any other questions on this? I'm not seeing any hands raised. I see your comment, Stephen. Thank you for the feedback. I'm not seeing any comments or questions on the bulk import. So with that, I will open it up to anyone on the group to ask any questions you might have about estimation as a whole, or with any of the processes, resources. Appreciate the feedback, Stephen. Thank you. Not seeing any additional questions or comments. Again, this is an open forum. No question is too small to ask to us. We've received some really good questions from these sessions. One of the initial sessions that we offered for to ask Q&A for this was about reports and the availability of reports. And after that first session, our team worked hard to release a report that exported to Excel and also featured unit pricing in it. And so then we were able to get that out. And so just to highlight, one of the times that folks gave us feedback and we were able to act on it. So again, please feel free to speak up, requests, questions, comments, anything. We're happy to talk through. Not seeing anything. One thing I didn't talk about, you might notice at the top here, it says training 1 environment. This is one of our lower environments used to practice. Think of it as a safe sandbox that doesn't impact real data. What I will do is, if you do not have access to this and you would like access to the Train 1 environment, so if you go into your apps and you do not see the AWP Train 1 tile, and you would like access to it, please let me know, and we can put together a list and get you access to that to practice on your own. Most of you all are familiar with AWP Prod. That's our product environment. That's where everyone is used to entering concepts and projects and cost estimates. But once again, this Training 1 environment, great to use to practice for dummy data and learning how to navigate. So I just sent a link in the chat to Train 1. Again, if you don't have access to Train 1 and you would like it, please reach out to me, put together a list and get you all access if you need to. I know the external folks on the call can't see the chat or the link, so I will make sure to add that to the email as well in the follow-up. Right. Questions, comments, concerns? Is everyone loving AWP estimation?
Good afternoon. Hi, Justin. This is Yang from Jacobs. So AWP estimation is not rolled out to the consultants yet, right?
We are rolled out. Yes, that is. You all should see. You should have seen multiple emails come out, I would hope. And when you log in, you should see that you have the vEst engineer designer role. And that means that you have estimation. Let me go ahead.
Okay.
So
Because I do have the designer role part, but I think when I log in, mine still say pre-con. Is that the same thing? Let me double check.
So when you log in, your screen should look something like this.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so then this is what we're talking about. Before, we used to live in pre-construction and projects. Now we have
Okay.
AWP estimation. If you are unfamiliar with how to create a concept or the new workflow, we rolled out a new training guide back in November timeframe. And then we also have a recording of the training available on YouTube, so all external consultants can access it as well. So I can make a note to include the link to the YouTube and to the training guide. I'm going to go to our VDOT website and just show you really quick. Here we go. Again, I clicked through really quickly, but if you Google VDOT AWP estimation, this page should show up and you'll be able to see the training guide that we've put together here for everyone. So that's available for your use. And then, like I said, there's a pre-recorded training on YouTube that Tessa actually led a while back for folks. So it walks you through that and very helpful.
Okay, all right, that's that's good to know, because when I opened my pre-con page, I did see the estimation tab there, but I wasn't sure what it was until Harold told me like it's gonna be like a movement from pre-con to estimation. So it's like now it'll make sense.
Yeah. Yep. So all designers moved out of pre-construction into estimation. With estimation, there's a full suite of tools to your disposal now. You can use the built-in pricing within estimation to use regression pricing, or you can use external tools and just load in your pricing separately. So very flexible in terms of how you price the items, but again, with the rollout of estimation, there's just one workflow. You start with a concept, you add a cost estimate, transition to a project, and hand it over to central office from there. But that's at, a 10,000-foot view of everything. The guide will walk you through much more detail and help you get acclimated with the new process.
Okay, so in the future or near future, if someone else in my company wants to have access to estimation, what kind of process do they have to go through?
Yeah, it's a great question. One that we've been navigating a decent amount lately. There is a job aid that we have. Let's see if I can pull this up. Here we go. So we put together this job aid, and I will make sure to add this to the follow-up email as well. But it talks or walks you through how to submit the SARA request. There are two preconditions that I do want to highlight. We are VDOT, so there's a separate job aid for doing these as well. But assuming you filled out the ITD 35, 36 forms and provided to the supervisor, you get your background check done. If you have those completed, with your COV account, then you open SARA, you walk through these steps. It talks you through new users and which buttons to select to get access. I do want to, for everyone on this call, I would say you probably want to request the VEst Engineer Designer role. That is the designer for everyone role. In one-off cases, it might require something else, which we can talk through if you believe that doesn't apply to you. But like I said, for 99% of the people looking on this call, should be everyone here, it's going to be the VEst Engineer Designer role to submit that. But like I said, I'll make sure to include this job aid with that follow-up email so that you have access to it and can reference when you have new employees join.
Okay. Now, so I know for pre-con, we will have to do like a 1-day training. Is that still required?
So the short answer is no. It's not required. It is strongly encouraged that you go through the training guide and the YouTube recorded training at this point before using estimation. This training guide, it's 145 pages, and there's a lot of information. The learning curve is a little steep for someone brand new to VDOT systems and to the software as a whole. So again, there is no programmatic requirement to go through any trainings, but I struggle to see how someone coming on board would not be able to, or would be able to pick it up without going through that recorded YouTube training and this training guide.
Yep, makes sense.
Yep. Strong encouragement, but there is, like I said, no programmatic requirement at this point, but it is being talked about as a potential for the future.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. So, sorry, one last one. So we have few employees that had access to pre-comp before. However, because of long term of not using it, the login expired. So is that something we just submit a ticket to Vita to get it reactivated again?
Yeah, I would. So they had access, you're saying, and
But I think the access expired.
the access expired. So I believe you would still need to submit that Sarah request once again. Lean on Delia a little bit to clarify in that one instance. Would it be best they submit a ticket, or do you think it would be better for them to submit the Sarah request if their login has expired?
Yes, there are requests, please.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you for the questions. Go through how to export estimate from AWP. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Let's see. Which one do I want to use? Oh, all right. So can you go through? Yeah. So Jessica, I see your comment there. I use that UPC because it's my default UPC that I just have ingrained in my memory from my time in TOD before I joined the construction team. So this is not the actual cost estimate associated with parent UPC 126129. Like I said, it's just my default that I use for training purposes at this point. So not actual data. I forgot that you actually work with that one. But just to clarify. So with that being said, we have our cost estimate here, and we recently rolled out the cost estimate budget class XLS report. And the question was, can you go through how to export estimate from AWP? So I use that drop down, I click execute. Once again, while that loads, I start at the cost estimate level. From the start here, there we go. This will join out in just a second. To show you from the beginning how to get there, concepts, get to your concept, and then to your cost estimate from there. Once you click into your cost estimate, it's the actions button on the right, and you're looking for the cost estimate budget class XLSS report. This is the new report that we just released that allows you to export to Excel. The two big features that were added from the PDF version that was previously released, you now have unit pricing built in, and then you also have the item category as well. So if you had other item categories on this, you'd see those broken out. But again, we now able to export to Excel, so no one has to use any converters. You have categories listed and the unit pricing in addition to all the other features that were shown. Can you go through how to export S? I'm not sure I follow, Stephen.
Yeah, so the CSV file that you had, is it only, do you only get that from the template, or can you download the existing estimate in the CSV file format
Yeah, so that's
to like re-upload.
Yeah, so that's something that and Tessa, if there's a way to do that that I'm not aware, please jump in. But
Okay.
I do believe it's just it's the template that you would have to load in your items into. That being said, you could
Okay, that's no problem.
Yeah, you could use.
I didn't know if there's a way.
Yeah, I would say the best way would be to use this budget class report that exports to Excel, and then just copy your items directly into that template that way, using each of those, filling in each of those fields that we talked about. But at the moment, there is no way to just export like that base template filled in with these items to modify that way. But yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you for that.
Of course.
This is great, good stuff. Thanks.
I do see we're a minute over. Want to be respectful of everyone's time. I want to say I appreciate everyone joining the call today. Hopefully you found it useful. That being said, if you had any questions that you think of in the future you didn't get to ask today, please feel free to reach out to myself or Harold. We certainly appreciate everyone's involvement and everyone's feedback throughout. So you'll see an email from me summarizing everything we talked about today with all the resources and links out there. But once again, thank you all and hope you have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.